Hey guys, I'm Ernest with UpFix. Thanks for watching. Before we start the video, make sure to like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Now let's answer some of the most commonly asked questions. Tyler asks, I have a 2000 Porsche Boxster that has several discrete issues with the instrument cluster. The display is showing pixelated, but I also have dim backlights. I think the backlights are a result of a shifting or movement of the back panel, where the actual speed RPM numbers are printed. Before removing and sending in for you the repair, is there something that you think it can be fixed? So to answer, with the Porsche Boxster, the 996 chassis, the Porsche 911 and the Boxster share certain similar types of units. So the climate controls, they both have that infamous LCD failure where the climate control also has pixelated issues. On the instrument cluster, they may have a different faceplate printout where some of them are white, some of them are black. They might have different gauge options, but if you look at a Boxster and a 911 instrument cluster from that era, you'll notice a lot of similarities, and they both suffer from the same thing, which is pixelation in the LCD displays. And there's three of them typically. One giant one in the middle and two smaller ones in the sides. With those, basically, that's what we call a pixel repair. We basically have to replace the LCD unit and the actual ribbon cable that attaches to the instrument cluster. So that would essentially fix any kind of pixelation. Over the years, the ribbon cable, what happens is, due to the folds and just the material that it's made out of, basically creates pixelation in the LCD display. Most of the times you can reuse the LCD that's already currently in there and get away with just replacing the ribbon cables, which is basically where most of the fault lies. So that repair in itself is pretty straightforward. We replace the ribbon cables behind it. We do the full testing, make sure that no pixels are missing. And then pretty much with the backlights, that circuit board is kind of unique. It's got these two clips on the backhand side, and it's also got incandescent lighting for the background lights. So you would think that it's LED illuminated, but on these clusters, it's actually removable bulbs from the back. A lot of times you can access them with needle nose pliers and inspect them. Those, I believe it's 1.2 watt, 12 volt bulbs that are illuminating the instrument cluster, and they're easily removable from the back. So we pretty much put a whole new batch of bulbs in there that power up the instrument cluster so that it gets you get good life out of those bulbs for another couple decades or so. So now, as far as Sam mentioning that the shifting of the plates, there are two shifting circuit board plates on the sides that can affect the actual function of the backlights, the ribbon cable, LCDs, the pixel displays, the gauges even. You want to make sure that those two, you would see these green little tabs from the back. You want to make sure they're fully pushed inward towards the cluster. And if they're a little bit pushed out, you can see some exposed leads. That means that it may, over the years, have slided out. You need to just basically take your finger and just push them back in, and you should hear a click, audible click, to make sure that they're fully engaged. And it's a little interesting to see that on this one of the few clusters that has that kind of composed circuit board inside. But once you take it apart, by the time we finish, we make sure that we lock those two sliding connectors from both sides and make sure all the gauges are working, the backlights and the LCD. As far as the removal, it's not a nightmare, but there is a bezel that surrounds the cluster. You want to drop the steering wheel and basically pop out that bezel that covers the instrument cluster. As soon as you do that, it's pretty straightforward. You'll see a few screws from the top, the bottom, and you just pretty much make sure the battery is disconnected before you start disconnecting any wires in order to avoid any kind of fuses blowing. But I would say it shouldn't take you more than 40 minutes to an hour if you're taking your time and it's your first time removing your instrument cluster, to actually get that Porsche instrument cluster out of there. And some of them have 3 plugs, just depending on the configuration. Some of them have 2. The plug itself from the back is pretty unique. It's got this little locking slip lid, and then you basically pop it out, and then it just disengages and simultaneously pushes back up. So you want to feel that little locking tab that's over the plug, and once you push it over the plug, it'll simultaneously come out of that back of the cluster, and then you know you've disengaged it. Similar to BMWs and Audis of that era, they use similar plugs for their instrument clusters. So once you get those 3 plugs out, it's pretty straightforward. Just send it in to us for repair, and we'll fix your backlighting issues and pixel issues and any kind of other issues that we see on that instrument cluster. Hopefully they answer some of your questions on the Porsche instrument cluster repair for the 996 chassis, both Porsche 911 and the Boxster. Let us know what you think of this video. If you have any suggestions, leave it in the comments below. And be sure to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Subscribe, like it if you found this information helpful, and we'll see you next time. Take care.